Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to EUW ChallengerSeries number 18 with the second best of 3 of today with TheFoxSound and Reason Gaming. TheFoxSound won the last Challenger Series, so we'll see what they can bring to the table. I am Pulse, I am joined by Metas. Hello, how are you doing?
Hey man, I'm not doing too good, but hopefully this game is going to cheer me up and make me feel a bit better. As you say though, TFS did win the last EUW Challenger Series against Meet Your Maker's previous LCS team, so it goes to show the caliber of teams that we have involved here, plus Reason, a team that we've seen plenty times in the past, Paul. So honestly, this is going to be quite a tough one to call for me.
Yeah, it is. Like, Reason Gaming is basically the Tricks lineup that was then picked up by Reason Gaming, so we know exactly who they are. They're an extremely strong team. They've been in the Coke Challenger Series themselves, and we should probably get onto the band champions. So, Caston, Fresh, Elise, and Yasuo, followed by Lee Sin. You will be casting over the stream, so I'm just going to try and fill you in as we go through the rest of Champion Select, and then you'll be with me in-game, so it won't be too much of an issue. But at the moment, just waiting for that last ban out.
Yeah, pretty standard bans, nothing jumping out there. Yasuo, of course, in mid is just so strong right now in this current meta. Interesting enough, so far, obviously do tell me if Dr. Mundo gets banned out, but if he's left open, he was not hit by any nerfs in the previous patch, so that is a very strong pick right now in this current meta, Pulse, and one that I'd expect to see being played.
Already we're having picks come in like left, right and centre. Vi will be picked up first by TheFoxSound, followed by Kha'Zix and Jinx from Reason Gaming, and well, Jinx on Jinx bot is no surprise, presumably he mains that champion, but we've had no Mundo pick, and indeed no Shyvana pick. All of these super strong top laners, in fact no top laners being picked at all.
Yeah, could be saving the best for last, as the case may be, but Shyvana did get hit a bit in the previous patches with a couple of nerfs, nothing to make her completely terrible, of course, but that could definitely deter some players from picking that one up. But as you say, Jinx is going to be locked in. If this Draven-Leona matchup gets taken down here for TFS, that's a very strong combo against Jinx. Leona is kind of a counter to Jinx, because Jinx has no escapes, jump on top of her, there's very little she can do to retort.
Yeah, she can definitely bypass those Flame Chompers, which is one of the major factors that makes Jinx so incredibly difficult to deal with in lane. Coupled that with someone like Zyra, who can root you down, or someone like Annie, just makes it very difficult to escape like an all-in attempt in the laning phase, but Leona can bypass that. Draven is a very aggressive AD carry, seen a little bit of that in career at the moment, as people are discovering that Draven hasn't been buffed, hasn't been nerfed, but as a result, all the other AD carries who have kind of become weaker has just meant that Draven has come back into contention, which is awesome to see, because he brings a lot of damage and a snowballing potential to the game in general.
Yeah, and also going back onto the Leona pick with Draven, on top of that is, remember the passive that Leona has, which is Sunlight, and when you attack on Sunlight, you get that consumption of the Sunlight debuff to deal additional magic damage. You couple that with the spinning axes from Draven, that's a big chunk of damage coming in from just one auto attack, if Leona can jump in with the likes of the Zenith Blade and then the Shield of Daybreak on top of it. So the burst potential of bot is huge. Just seen that Annie gets picked in there from Barley D, which is the support player. So this is a very vulnerable bot lane right now from the side of Reason Gaming. It's going to be a skill matchup, because if Annie stands even a tiny bit out of position, she is going to get insta-gibbed.
So currently we have TheFoxSound hovering over the Kayle pickup, which in my opinion is being picked up way too much in the wrong kind of scenarios here, Metas. Like, in this scenario, I think it's great, because you have Kha'Zix. Kayle should be a defense against those kind of reset champions who want to get the ball rolling in team fights and just reset their way to a victory, but Kayle stops that in its tracks, because you cannot burst down someone who is invulnerable for a couple of seconds. And it's great against Vi pickups, which have actually been picked up by their team as well. So I feel like Kayle in this circumstance is really strong, but Kayle's just being picked up a lot in any circumstance, because people are like, well, she's a competent laner, but she doesn't necessarily bring something to every single team comp. And I think something that a lot of people are missing is that she's more of like a counter, because she's viable because other champions are viable. I think TheFoxSounds have read that perfectly.
Yeah, very much the case, and a very good point as well that you make there, Pulse, because, you know, in solo queue, for example, Kayle is almost an insta-pick. You see it banned all the time. She is very strong in solo queue, but when you get into team fights, when you get to team games, not quite the same level of strength, as you say, unless you are going for those counter picks. That being said, though, they're against Kha'Zix, as you say, who's an assassination champion, so that's definitely going to alleviate some of the pressure. Hovering over the Riven for the last potential pick, have they actually gone for that one?
They haven't. They're still hovering over. It looks like it's going to be Ziggs. It actually screwed up on my screen, but now that swapping it should be okay. Ziggs is going to be the last pickup from Reason Gaming.
Okay, that's a nice pick in here for Reason Gaming, because what is Kale's main problem in laning phase? It's poke. Yes, you get the Righteous Fury, her E, which will give additional range, but Ziggs is the master of poking with his short fuse passive. He's going to be able to do additional damage and then throw the bouncing bombs on top of that. So if Ziggs plays this one safe and plays it smart, he can definitely harass Kale out of the lane, get that CS lead, and then try and snowball from there. That being said, though, if Kale does manage to get a lot of jungle intervention from Vi, they can definitely turn that one back around in their favor.
Absolutely, but we are going to jump to a quick commercial break before we jump into the second best of 3 today, which is TheFoxSound versus Reason Gaming. We'll be back very shortly.
Force.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to EUW ChallengerSeries number 18 with TheFoxSound and Reason Gaming. I am Pulse, and I am joined by Metas.
Hello, my lovely. How's it going?
Hello.
You alright, mate?
Best intro that I think we've ever done here, Metas.
I definitely think that was on par with some of the best things we've ever done. Regardless, though, yeah, we are into the first game, and Barney D could be falling down straight away.
Oh, in fact, he's just going to stun 4 people and just flash on out, because that's Annie for you. And they will just be retreating into the ruined jungle. So Summoner's Burn, nothing from the TheFoxSound, and Summoner's Burn will be deflashed from Barney D.
Yeah, so actually, not too bad. I thought that Barney D was a dead man, honestly, but that was a beautiful stun coming in. And on top of that, I am being informed that Perry is Bro. So quite a confusing game because Jinx Spot, I believe, is Crazy Caps. That's normally the AD carry for Reason Gaming. So a bit of a head scratcher, Pulse, in the first few moments of this game.
I'm just going to call them what they're called in-game because some of these sources might be wrong, and I'm also getting very confused. So, but Brobo is a person we've seen quite a lot in the US ChallengerSeries in many different teams and has always performed very well. Has been sometimes seen in the jungle, sometimes in the top lane, but I know you've had a long history of the guy.
Oh, I love him. I actually met him at DreamHack. I've been casting him since Call of Duty 4. So he is a really, really good player. And by the looks of things, he is going back in towards the jungle again. So it's just really strange, honestly. But regardless, we are in this game. Perry was in the last one, Lowland Lions.
Absolutely. So we're going to have pretty standard starts from both these guys. Zaician's going to be aggressing with Crazy Caps just to try and push Trashy away from his own buff. And there is no one in the bottom lane just yet because the duo lane has swapped up. This is a small rotation as Zaician jumps already onto Trashy using Zenith Blade, but they're just trying to delay the inevitable. They're missing farm for this privilege here, but I'm not really sure how worth it is for either of these guys. They're just going to back off. They've had their fun, and we're going to return to lane.
Yeah, just being a bit of a nuisance, but not really getting anything out of that with Trashy picking up the blue buff regardless. And we're seeing this a lot in these lane switch-ups, Pulse, whereby the solo laner will just follow around his jungler, pick up some of that farm, pick up some of the experience that he's not going to be denied in lane, and get back in there just in time to ding up to around the level 2. So you're seeing both the solo laners doing this actually at the moment, just following their jungle.
Yeah, it's interesting that they've gone for this lane swap up, especially in this new patch, because we are on the live servers, and now that the top and middle turrets have basically a super Doran shield in the early game, in fact, they always have that, the outer turrets do, but the bottom towers don't, it basically deters people from going from lane swap ups, because their tower will go down faster, and that's exactly what's going to happen to Renekton, but they've decided to go for that lane swap up. And even though Rumble Renekton isn't super favourable, why do you think they've decided to do this?
I think it's just the case of not wanting to go in these lane matchups that we talked about before, with Draven and Leona being able to absolutely crush Annie and Jinx. I think that's the main reason for it, Paul, that they don't want to snowball themselves out of this game.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, because Leona definitely isn't a champion who is the most amazing in 1 versus 2s, because she likes to engage, and that one person is usually going to be under the tower. Leona isn't super tanky in the early game until she's got a couple levels in her W, which is the Eclipse, so they won't be able to do that right away. And Santorin just heading around the side, seeing if she can head off that Beansu, but he's going to walk back to the turret, which is exactly what's happening to Zeros at the top lane.
Because the problem is that, in fact, as I say that, they've got a lot of engage in mid.
Yeah, Sencooks is being aggressed upon, but Lapras isn't able to go all the way, and he would just be flashing back to turret.
What I was going to say is that you can see this 3-man push at both top and bottom, and Barney D and I believe that Crazy Caps want to just kind of get themselves to level 6. So you have Tibbers on the battlefield, and there's no longer that much threat anymore. But looks like that free dragon is going to actually get picked up here from the side of TFS, with the tower being replied with.
So the tower early game is way more valuable right now than Dragon, because meanwhile in like Season 3, and in fact all the seasons that are not called Season 4, if you had like a tower trade for a Dragon trade, great. But now that Dragon is like significantly less valuable early game, and in fact now scaled, then it's better to get those objectives. So right now they're going to have that rotation by Santorin, which is exactly what they need to do, but he's not like trying to make the same thing happen and kind of perform a counterweight in the bottom lane.
So they're really trying to crush out Rumble here. They're pushing that second tier tower. Jinx and Annie are actually staying in the top lane for now. They may be recalling in this tri-bush area though, and maybe rejoining the bot lane fight, which that tower is still not gone down. 1,000 hit points. That could very well be enough time for them to get down here. That being said though, the creep wave is pushing, so Renekton's going to try his best to keep them away here, Pulse. I'm not too sure he's going to be able to do it though.
Yeah, it doesn't have that, like, super Duran shield buff, so it's going to be going down way faster than the top turrets, and it should be falling any second. BT's trying his best, but in fact nothing will really happen. His allies unable to react in time, so that will completely even up the board, but the extra dragon means that we have RG coming slightly ahead, or rather, it was the TheFoxSound, wasn't it? The TheFoxSound come out slightly ahead.
Yeah, I feel that Barney D and Crazy Caps at top weren't really doing anything, because they should have maybe recalled an extra 10 seconds beforehand, and then they'd have got down to be able to defend that tower. Regardless though, they still have put some of that damage down. Now coming down to bot lane, they're not going to be as squishy, not going to be as vulnerable as in the first few levels, because Annie has managed to pick up the Doran's shield, and Jinx is just, well, Jinx, a very difficult character to deal with because of the range on Pow Pow. So regardless though, Pulse, everything being said and done, gold advantage going into the side of TFS, and it looks as though Reason Gaming are going to try and push this bot tower.
Yeah, so the board has basically reset right now, and it's just a matter of who's slightly stronger from all these rotations, and everyone's gone back into their respective lanes, and there's not that big of a difference. I mean, there's a larger difference between Rumble and Renekton, but Renekton will probably start to suffer, especially because it will push out eventually, and with there being no tower in the top lane, then Rumble will just bully him out again. So Beansu might have a little bit of difficulty in the early game, but he's opted for the very early Negatron Cloak.
And another reason why those lane switch-ups were so good as well on the side of TFS is because we mentioned this previously, that Kale versus Reason Gaming's Senkras in mid is probably not going to be a particularly nice one for Kale in the early levels, but without having Vi there to back Kale up, that is allowing Ziggs to be in a position where he is going to get free farm. But all of that being said here, Pauls, you look at the farm in mid lane, Kale's been doing a really good job of keeping toe-to-toe. So that's not even been a factor here. Kale playing so strong.
Yeah, like you would expect Ziggs to outright win that trade, and typically like when Kale gets the blue buff, she'll have the extra cooldown reduction. She can basically keep her E activated for more of the laning phase, which means she can basically become a ranged champion, evening up the odds against most mid laners like Orianna and like Ziggs, who she's laning against. But in fact, Vice is going to pick up the blue buff, and they're not even going to contest that. So clearly the call was made by Lapras saying, well, I don't need the blue buff, I don't need any help in my lane because I'm already winning against my counter.
Exactly, and that is alleviating so much pressure off the rest of his team, because now we're seeing Santorin just kind of lurking around in the shadows. He's not really committing to anything. Now sees the potential possibility for that gank at top lane, where Renekton has his flash and dominance available though. This is going to be a tough gank to land.
He's heading around the side, has been revealed by that ward. Vaultbreaker being charged up, and won't connect as the slice is used, and Rumble is nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, very difficult gank to land, and plus the fact there was a fair amount of creeps there which were looking too delicious for Xerius to turn down, so he didn't even follow that one up. Slice and dice used, as you mentioned, will be just fine. In fact, Santorin thinking about coming out for a mid gank.
Yep, he's definitely heading around already using a Sultan battery. Sencooks jumps his way out, flash into the Vaultbreaker. First blood picked up by Santorin.
Yeah, and this is just what we're talking about. I mean, as a Vi main yourself, you know how incredibly strong she is from those jungles, throwing in the ganks. And as soon as she hits level 6, you could see that Santorin wanted to make plays. He was lurking on Wraiths, went to top, then decided, okay, that's not on the cards, let's try mid instead. So it's gone from bad to worse from Senkuz's point of view, because he was countering Kayle, fell behind on CS, and now that's first blood as well on the side, with an assist going to Kayle.
It was always going to be difficult for Ziggs because he was on the back foot, and typically when you hit that level 6 mark as Vi, you can just walk into the mid lane, and most mid laners have enough burst where you can just say, okay, I'm just going to ult you, and then you're going to die, because Vi mid laner has so much burst, and while you're being locked up for like 1 second, they can get all of that burst off in one rotation, which is exactly what we saw in mid lane with the Kayle. And Beansu popping his ultimate, was kind of wailing away at Rumble. Not sure if he can entirely pick up the kill, but he's grinding him down. Dominus to full effect. And we'll just see how far he can go with this chase. He still has Flash available to him, as well as the Ignite. Slice and dice on a couple seconds cooldown. A little surprised he didn't go all the way on that, but I guess he felt that he didn't want to go all the way in with Equalizer still available.
I think a lot of that was seeing that Rumble had no sustain, no health potions, nothing like that. So just wanted to force him out the lane, get this free farm, and also deny some of that experience and goal from Rumble. So he has to recall back to spawn. Going to be rejoining the fight after picking up a Ruby Crystal and also amplifying Tome. So going for that haunting, guys, as a lot of Rumbles will. Dragon's up in 7 seconds. You can see already TFS are on the case.
Yep, and Dragon doesn't look like he's going to be contested at all. They don't really have a team, and that being Reason Gaming, a team that can really contest Dragon. And Beansu was just taking a lot of damage from Zeros at the top lane, just kind of standing there and taking it. He might go all the way in. Dominus is not available. Flash has already been used. Lands both of the Electro Harpoons into the Equalizer, cutting off that escape route. Flamespitter will take him down, silencing himself and getting that extra auto attack damage.
I'm really surprised at that play. I was about to cut myself short then because I thought there was going to be a gank fight. Look at this in mid.
There still will be. Tibbers comes down, stuns both of these targets. Intervention used on his ally. Good guy, Kayle, allows Santorin to survive, keeping that double buff, but will fall for his troubles.
Yes, and this tower could be following suit, or at least they're going to do a lot of damage to this. I was going to say I was really surprised that Renekton hung around at top for that long, because while he died, Pulse, I'm not sure if he caught it, he had a Negatron Cloak and a Doran Shield only. He'd not gone back to pick up any new items for a long time, so Rumble was always going to come out first there with the Ignite, with the Flash, with the Equalizer as well.
It definitely felt that Renekton just overstepped the mark when trying to just farm out the creeps, got a little bit too greedy and just wanted to go back to pick up those items you were just talking about, but he stayed around way too long and Zaros just straight up punished him for it. So right now we're 2-1 in the game, not a huge bloodthirsty game that we sometimes see, but a 1k advantage, which is pretty solid from the TheFoxSound, especially when they're a tower behind, puts them in a very good position.
It hasn't been all-out action so far, but when you look at the compositions that we have here, Pulse, there's a lot of burst, there's a lot of engage, and I think that's going to change around the 20 to 25 minute mark. The next time Dragon is up, expect some big engages kicking off, because last time around Reason gave that away for free. I don't think they're going to want to make that same mistake twice.
Yeah, so we're seeing this composition quite a lot nowadays, where we see like maybe a double quote-unquote reset composition, where you have someone like Jinx who gets the passive, is basically a reset champion, same sort of principles like Tristana with the rocket jump reset, but you will be able to clean people up, and then of course Trashy, who's going to be on Kha'Zix. So you have this double reset composition, and then when you have that composition, you need kind of a way to start the team fight off by getting a kill, and Kayle counters that completely. It's whether can they kill someone before Kayle can react to that, and that's kind of going to be the main factor in every single team fight when we see like a 5 versus 5.
Yeah, a good way to counter that Kayle ultimate though is just to put a lot of AoE down, because you can only ulti one person, you can't ulti all 5. Barney D actually going to be caught.
Yep, initiating already. Crazy Cats is going to be zoned out. Trashy jumps over the wall. Jinx heading back to her own tower. And now Zeros snipes it with a huge equalizer. Another kill comes down. Body D is dropped into the death chamber. And Senkux is still around the side. Crazy Cats just going huge. And the rest of the team, well, it's good coordination.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about the next dragon being the focal point of damage, but hey, it turned out to be a blue buff, and that's what I'm talking about. There's so much engage, so much burst potential from both teams that this is going to have fireworks written all over it. Right now, 3-0 Rumble is going to be absolutely terrifying to play against.
Indeed. So 4-1 will be the scoreline, and still a tower behind. So in terms of objectives, the FoxSounds are not doing too well, but in terms of team fights, they're always catching Reason Gaming on the back foot, and Reason Gaming have to be ahead if they want their composition to work, because a reset composition doesn't work if you don't get any kills, and if the people who are resetting don't have any damage to offer.
Yeah, so going back to the point that I was making just before that blue fight kicked off, a good way to counter Kayle is to do a lot of AoE damage, because you can only use intervention on one target, and that's going to leave the rest of your team getting crippled. Then you're going to come out of intervention and find yourself dead very quickly afterwards, similar to a GA in a lot of ways. So they have a lot of AoE burst potential, and actually at top lane, Beansu could get himself caught.
Yep, they're going to utilize this damage. Trashy jumps onto Santa, and already an intervention has come to fruition, but Lapras doesn't have that for himself. Super Mega Death Rocket comes in from the side. It's not going to be enough damage to pick up that kill, but the Mega Inferno Bomb is still not enough, and Lapras walks out. Perfect health potion at the right time, and 2 kills again for the FoxSound.
And a fourth going on to Rumble, who must have accumulated a serious amount of gold. Yeah, nearly 2,000 to spend. So could be going for the straight-up Leandri's Torment, maybe going into other directions instead. But regardless, I'm talking about AoE damage. Doesn't matter if a Fed Rumble's against you, because he can just put down the Equalizer, keep everyone at arm's length, and then allow the likes of Kayle to crush you down. They actually just forced the flash away from Ziggs, and the Equalizer comes down as well from Rumble.
Yeah, Flash also used by Leona to try and force that Flash out, so not going to be too terrible. And Vi also flashing up Red Miwa on the bottom lane, though. Crazy Caps going 1 versus 2. Lapras has arrived in this area, trying to use that extra movement speed to catch back up to both of these laners, but doesn't look like that's going to be the case. Blood Rush used by Crazy Caps. Can they get a range in time? Lapras has sped himself up. Reckoning will land. That should be enough. There it is, with the extra auto attack range from Righteous Fury.
Well, this is quickly getting into dangerous territory, because Dragon's up in 40 seconds. Judging by the position of Reason Gaming right now, they're probably not going to be able to deal with this, because you've even got 4-0 Rumble, Draven's got 2 assists, Kayle's starting to get pretty big, with the Nash's Tooth already picked up, and then you've also got Vi with 2 kills, so already has a tanky item and the Brutalizer, so there's so many threats coming from multiple directions, and quite a lot of squishy, very unmaneuverable characters on the side of Reason Gaming, like Jinx, like Annie, that will burst in a heartbeat. This is looking really dangerous for them.
Apart from the fact that Senkux just deleted Lapras in the mid lane using a standard combo. So at least they still have damage available to them, but I completely agree. Unless they get the resets, they're not very maneuverable. They just don't jump around the team fight, and if they don't get any kills, then this is going to be essentially stationary, and Crazy Caps always picking up the kill into Barney D. They may well re-engage. Solar Flare comes down, Vault Breaker misses, but it is sold and Battery will not. He's in the middle of no man's land, picked up by Senkux, who is still chasing after with Jinx. Zacian is going to just kind of split off from Crazy Cap, see if he can save his life. Flash forwards will lock him in place using that snowman. Trashy is going to just jump in, and Super Mega Death Rocket, not maybe necessary, but definitely very flashy.
So at the end of all of that action, that was a belated 3-1 trade with a dragon going into the hands of TFS. Originally, I thought that Kayle would be happy with that outcome because Ziggs burned everything to secure that kill, giving the free dragon, but then Reason Gaming very quickly jumped on top of that, managed to pick up 3 kills, and more importantly here, Pulse, they managed to get those 3 kills on characters that matter. Now 2 on Ziggs, 1 on Jinx, who unfortunately just disconnected.
Yeah, well, Reason Gaming do excel in those kind of situations where they're in like 3 versus 3s or those smaller skirmishes, especially when they're chasing people down, because they have ways of keeping people in place while they just slowly kill them. And, well, it's not quite slowly killing them, because you have Kha'Zix, who very quickly kills people when they're isolated, but that's the type of composition they're running, whereas the FoxSound just completely outmatches them in straight-up team fights.
Yeah, and I just realised that earlier I made a mistake. Jinxbot is not Crazy Caps. That's completely the other way around. Jinxbot is, of course, Crysland. So, sorry for any confusion that I caused earlier. And, of course, Crysland was the player who just disconnected. Hopefully, he's going to be back very shortly. Speaking of which, he has a Kayle on his face right now. So that's definitely not a position I'd like to be in.
Yeah, indeed. I'm kind of like panned on the opposite side of the map, so I can't quite see it right now. But I can see it on the mini map, and I don't think he wants to be there for too long. And he doesn't have flash on
No.
cooldown, so he can't start mashing buttons.
Yeah, and of course, if you follow in with the cue from Kale, which is the Reckoning, that is going to slow your movement speed down by 55% for 3 seconds. As we said before, Jinx is not a hyper-maneuverable character unless you get the Get Excited passive. That's not likely to happen anytime soon, so I have to feel that, maybe Ziggs is going to play a part in this one with his Satchel Charge or something similar, because Jinx Crystalland is in a really precarious position.
Well, they do have the time to react. Like, the positioning of Annie up at that turret, Rumble might be able to cut her off, but definitely Sencux could try and react. As you said, the Mega Inferno Bomb is almost off cooldown, only 5 seconds on that. So we'll see if he can react to that. Or, the other alternative is Lapras just turns around. Like, often when we start theory crafting about these things, it's like all these many different factors can come into it, and then nothing happens.
It could be possible that if they know he's disconnected, they're going to have good sportsmanship and just back away, knowing that Crystalland was probably not wanting to be in this position, because of course when you disconnect, you start to run back to spawn. So we will see what the future holds here. Hopefully Crystalland will be jumping back into the game, but this is going to allow us to look at some of these items that have been picked up around the board here, Pulse. We mentioned before about Kale having a good early game, but to be fair to Ziggs, has started to pull himself back into this one. Has the Athenes and Holy Grail, a 1.2k to spend as well, so he is slowly but surely getting his way back in. Both AD carries have been in the fray, with a couple of kills being involved with Draven. In fact, he's been involved with 3, 1 kill, 2 assists, and he's actually finding himself a full Zeal and completed Berserker's Greaves over Jinx. That's really important for this stage of the game.
It is. Like, the game is very even overall, though. The only kind of bigger factor that has really, like, turned the tables, or will be, like, one of the bigger factors in the rest of the game, is Rumble being 4-0-1. And already picking up the Liandry's and the Sorcerer's Boots, that's a huge amount of magic penetration. And you don't need the percent magic penetration until, like, mid-game, until people start itemizing. But by having that flat penetration, you're going to be kind of reducing people's magic resist to at least 0, if not underneath that, except that's not really shred. But he's still going to be dealing a lot of damage. That's kind of the point I'm trying to make.
So just to kind of bring in your expertise on Vi here, do you agree with this build? Do you like the route that Santorin has gone for here? And how is this going to affect the rest of the game? Going for a tanky item and then a brutalizer instantly afterwards? Because he's going to be very tanky, but he's also going to be dishing out a fair amount of punishment in these early to mid stages.
So there's a couple schools of thought when it comes to how to build Vi, and the kind of, like, solo queue build is you just go for Brutalizer, you go for, like, Trinity Force, and you just do huge amounts of damage, and you just keep on building, like, offensive items. So you can just jump in with Vault Breaker, do silly damage, nuke people down with, like, the third auto attack, and then they die. Or you can just go super tanky and you can grind people down with her denting blows, where you just, like, keep on using those auto attacks over and over and over again. Makes it very good at initiating, is more viable for, like, competitive play, because you don't just get nuked down as soon as you try and use Assault and Battery. Typically you won't go for, like, a hybrid build, because you don't do either very well at all. You won't have the damage and you won't really have the tankiness to survive, so you end up doing nothing. But the fact that he's so far ahead, he's 2-1-3, and doing pretty well in terms of CS as well, he can afford to at least just go for a Brutalizer, and then carry on going for tanky items.
Alrighty, well, we have just been informed from our streamer, our producer, that Crystalland has reconnected on TeamSpeak. So because we are 3 minutes behind here, Pulse, with us being on live, we have 3 minutes to fill. Maybe this is the time to jump on over and answer some questions here from the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. So something we do a lot is kind of, well, during breaks and stuff, is ask questions. So if you have any questions in chat, go ahead and ask us. We'll try our best to answer them as long as they are stream worthy. Often we do get questions well, we can't read out on stream, which is a little unfortunate, but because there's not too many people in chat right now, it should be okay and pretty easy to read off of the chat, because usually we do it from Twitter, but there's not too many people in chat, so it wouldn't be an issue.
There isn't. With it being a Saturday afternoon, people are out doing other things, Pulse, which is quite strange, I have to admit, actually, getting down and casting at, 3, 2 in the afternoon on a Saturday afternoon is kind of strange.
I typically don't get up until, like, 7 PM on a Saturday or a Sunday, so for me this is, like, not normal waking hours, but We do have a reconnect from Jinxbot, which is of course Crystalline, so we should be jumping back into the action very quickly. And one of our mods is saying, "Do you still love me, casters? I don't even know who you are."
I'm just gonna say yes. 'Cause I love everybody.
Yes, I agree with Metas. Yeah.
To the casters, what item do you think will be a chain vest on Vi? So just to rephrase that, what do you think the chain vest is going to build into here, Pulse?
There's a couple options. It could be Randuin's or it could be Sunfire Cape, and I don't like the Sunfire Cape too much here because you're not going to have a sustained fight, and we were third crafting over that engagement between Kale and Jinx. What happened? The tertiary of all those options, nothing. So
good, yeah, good guy Lapras though, because you can see the chat. Kristen says thank you, so yeah, good guy Lapras.
Okay, so Chain Vest I don't think is going to be built into Sunfire Cape. I would expect Randuin's. Because it would just make way more sense. It would slow down the mobility from Trashy, means he can never really get to his target. And again, Beansu's just being punished while he's trying to farm. Dominus is being popped, maybe a little early, and has just burnt his ultimate for nothing.
Are you a bit confused on Randuin's? Because I'm pretty sure Chain Vest doesn't build into Randuin's. Isn't that Warden's Mail and Giant's Belt?
Possibly. Possibly.
So Sunfire Cape.
I think he's going to sell the chain vest and pick up a... I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's early, sort of.
Kind of. Either way, Barney D just got a pretty nice stun off, actually. I don't know if you caught it, but at bot lane, in top lane, in fact, mid...
All of the lanes, we're going to have kills coming down. Senkirk's ultimate is not going to do enough damage. The Zacian still has that Eclipse sticking down, and they're going to pick up a very clean kill.
It was all three lanes simultaneously just going for it, and still you can see Santrin is lurking in that top bush, but here comes Trashy.
Yeah, already going for this engagement. The Sword and Battery used onto Trashy. Equalizer comes down. That's not the way you want to flash into. Beansu may well be dived here. Santrin is charging up the Vault Breaker. Doesn't quite get in range. Lands an auto attack. And the top tower will be falling.
Meanwhile, at bot lane, Crazy Caps was forced to flash as the Tibbers came down. So just all out action.
And Jinxbot will be picking up that kill using that ultimate. And another kill comes down. So as soon as we had that pause coming off, kind of making up for that downtime.
Yeah, really going for the jugular, and with that tower being picked up and they get excited, they could be looking to pressure the second tower while Red is actually stolen away from Santrin.
Yeah, so 10 and 5 will be the scoreline. Lapras heading on down. Bonnie D, good luck to you, sir. I don't think you're going anywhere. He's just going to stand still, see if he can juke them out. It's not going to happen. Both of them converging on the same point. Just a matter of who's going to pick up this kill, and they're just going to go ahead and dance it on out.
I love that. With a taunt, beaten by a little, and then gets a reckoning in the face before she can finish it. So, yeah, Kale picking up the third kill. And both teams really exploding in this game, but has to be said, still 6-0, 6,000 gold behind our Reason Gaming. Could be a bit less than that. Shutdown comes in.
Yeah, Mega Inferno Bomb plus the Jinx will end up in another kill. Hextech Minefield comes down. Not really sure what against, but it will be coming down. Trashy heading back to his tower. And again, the TheFoxSound being very aggressive, even though Rumble just died.
They are certainly looking for aggression. They're going to find it in mid.
Wow, another Miracle Xenoblade comes down into the Solar Flare. Very low cooldown. And Santrin picks up another kill into Vi.
Wow, it's every single time we try in Theory Craft, just kills come in. And lots of damage. And definitely making up for those first 12-13 minutes where we only had 3 kills. But again, that's the kind of composition that both teams are running. These catch out, hyper burst, hyper in your face, kind of engage comps. And that's the reason why we are seeing all hell break loose now, Pulse, because it's starting to free up both teams.
Yeah, absolutely. So that another kill onto Santrin means he can probably finish off that Randuin's that he won't be building into, Kappa. And we'll see if he just goes back for that one. But Dragon comes up in 1 minute 30, and that will be something that both these teams will want to try and contest. And at the moment, Reason Gaming are just not in good shape, and Trashy is eternally on fire for some reason.
Yeah, that is a bug that sometimes happens. I believe that's from the red buff. The passive that gets proc from the red buff. So it's one of those things that happens when you get pauses and the like, and that's going to be quite strange, because I'm going to keep thinking as a Sunfire Cape.
Yeah, I mean, he is a bug as well, so it's not exactly what he wants to be on fire all the time. Fire, of course, is super effective against
Pokemon.
bugs. Please.
It could be Annie, hovering a magnifying glass over him, because she is quite demonic in a lot of ways. But
very possible, yeah. I mean, something I really want to happen is like Pokemon Trainer Annie, and just like instead of Tivers, you have like Charizard, and it would be the most amazing thing.
I think Riot would probably get sued for copyright, but I would love to see that happen. Right,
Probably.
please.
It will be up for like 2 days, and it will be fantastic, but... Okay, so Zeros is going to find himself reenacting just a bit of a love tap before he backs on off, and well-known On Fire Bug is just sitting in the bush right on top of a wood.
Yep, so this is going to free up Santrin. Actually, you know, Leona's slightly whiffing, forcing the flash away though at bot lane.
The Whirling Death comes through and clears out the mini-waves. There's some very dead creeps as they look for another siege on the bottom turret. Super, or Mega Atomic Bomb. There's too many supers and megas in this game. Will be coming down, just clearing out that wave.
It's better than, what did I call it, the Hyper Death Rocket the other day when I was casting Jinx. Like, I put, you know, no one's
Jinx,
ever
basically
thought of
Urgot
for the last 7 years or something, and there's me mentioning him in a cast. It was quite strange, but as we're waffling on, that is another dragon picked up for the side of TFS, who is starting to escalate further and further ahead on gold here, Pulse. It's now getting towards the 7k mark.
It's seriously getting out of hands at this point, Metas. It's just a matter of what can Reason Gaming do on the back foot to catch back up, because that's the state they're in. They're about 6k behind, just almost 7k, or definitely over 7k. Okay, look, it's early in the day. I'm gonna make mistakes.
You're the maths guy as
Don't
well.
try and do maths on stream. That's what I've learned. I've learned it from stress. But okay, so Bonnie D heading off these guys in the jungle, but they're definitely on the back foot at this stage. Even the placements of their wards is showing them that they just can't step outside of the jungle, or even step into their jungle.
Yeah, it's getting to that stage of the game now where they have to be very careful. They have to fear the opposition. They have to respect them, because if you do stand slightly out of position, you are going to find yourself 6 foot under. However, with Draven being spotted at top, this could be the moment where Reason Gaming try and make a play. They realise the AD carry's not here. Yep,
as long as they can catch one person unawares, they can just nuke them down quickly. But who's their target going to be to nuke down quickly? Because even Xerath at this stage has already built a Rylai's Crystal Scepter. That's not something you expect for another 5 minutes at least. They just don't have the burst to take anyone down who isn't Crazy Cat.
That's exactly what happens when Rumble gets fed. He can finish off these big items a lot sooner than you'd expect, and as you say, completely correctly, it's difficult to nuke anybody. It's difficult to assassinate anyone from Kha'Zix. If he jumps in, he simply does not have the fangs to take someone out.
Yeah, I'm not even sure Trashy has fangs anyway. Like, he definitely has claws, but I don't know if he has fangs.
Maybe I'm getting confused. You know, going back to Pokemon, he looks quite a lot like the Pokemon Scyther.
He does, yeah. I'm not sure if he has fangs, so...
Get those wing things stuck in.
Yeah.
I don't even know what they are.
No, I don't. Wings, I suppose. You know?
Wing things, also known as wings.
Absolutely, but we're going to have the engage come out. Crazy Cat's the only one they can burst, and indeed the one they're going to try and burst. Equalizer comes down, splits up the team fight. Reason Gaming can't go anywhere, and they get absolutely disintegrated as Annie also hits the death chamber. Double kill comes in. Santorin has used his ultimate, but he's just warding them off. Senkook still has a lot of damage available to him. Flash comes down. Bouncing bomb's not going to be quite enough or get in range to finish him off. Santorin is grinding him down with that Randuin. That is definitely not a Sunfire cape, and they'll be heading back onto that tower.
I could actually be falling from... Oh my goodness, if I was with 20 hit points and the GG comes in, you can't really blame Reason Gaming. The last couple team fights have been absolutely devastating.
Yeah, and that will be the first game going to the TheFoxSound, looking very strong.